This Jocks 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msbnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, Thursday, July the 2nd, 8 a.m., hour number 2 underway. Going to switch from the AP Top 25 with Josh Pay, talking some SEC teams, go over to the Big Ten, a team that under a lot of normal circumstances is being discussed being in the top 10, maybe the top 5. Not so much this year with a head coaching change. Talk some Michigan with Brad Galli here in just a moment. First, tell you about Gusty Gouls and the Gusty Gouls Group. If you're looking to get into a new home in Central Alabama, guys, it's got to be the Gusty Gouls Group. They served more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. They know the market better than anyone. Just Google Gusty Gouls Group. You're going to see more than 850 5-star Google reviews, brokered by eXp Realty. Go to GustyGoulsGroup.com, button at the top right-hand corner of the page. Smash that button. Very little information. They're going to tell you what they think you can get for your home right now. They know what homes are coming available before they hit the market. Go to GustyGoulsGroup.com, call 205-542-1996 today, and start packing. All right, Brad Galli of the Brad Galli Show joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline. You can check out his show on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, covering all Michigan, Detroit sports, but we're focusing on the Michigan Wolverines today. Brad, I want to start with this. It feels like a lot of times when you have a head coaching change, we hear a lot about culture inside the facility has to change. However, what that culture has been that has made Michigan successful in the majority of the last, let's just say, decade, it fits right in to what Kyle Whittingham is. Philosophically, mentally, emotionally, how much does that benefit maybe how quick of a start he can get off to as the Michigan head coach?
I think with the Sharon Moore, and first of all, thanks for having me on, Cole. Good to talk with you, man. I see why you're the Alabama Sportscaster of the Year, the way you do those reads, man. I want to go buy from them too, man. That's a good partner there. You're doing those reads great. You got the questions flowing. We feel good on a holiday week here. I think with Michigan, man, losing Sharon Moore like that and the way that kind of things went up in flames, you panic if you're a Michigan football fan, but to find Kyle Whittingham in the situation that they did, I think you're right. He slides in as almost a best-case scenario in any sort of calendar flip, but the fact that they got him at the time that they did when he left Utah, and it was a weird situation the way he left Utah, but he's come in, and it's my understanding, guys, that he came in and said, this is not how we do our weight room, and they had just invested millions into this weight room, and the staff at Michigan said, how do you want to do it, Kyle Whittingham? And he and his staff said, this is how we want it. They adjusted it. There's a lot of changes that have happened there already under Kyle Whittingham. He's had the success that they've been able to say, let's step back and understand that this is a new coach. And I think, guys, that's the biggest thing that they've needed to do here for a while. Jim Harbaugh had his success. I think Sharon Moore wanted to continue that, but you have to be your own man if you're going to take over a program. You guys see it in the teams that you're so close to there. You have to step out and be sort of an alpha. And I think Kyle Whittingham's come in and done that. The whole Michigan man thing, I think, is overblown. I think you have to have an individual in there to be a head coach and a leader of men. And it seems in the first few months that Kyle Whittingham's that guy.
How broken was the facility, the locker room, so to speak, the culture there? I mean, understanding it was an ugly departure for Sharon Moore, but it seemed like it was such a nice handoff, literally and figuratively, from Jim Harbaugh to him, being the offensive line coach, being sort of what they were physically, how they won games. Just felt like it was going to work. But was the interior of that thing crumbled to the point that a lot of people on the outside looking in sort of believed that it was?
The cracks really started to show in the middle part of the season. There was a story in one of the papers that the assistant coaches and Sharon, everyone had a come to Jesus meeting in the middle of the season, that there was fighting. And I've done the weekly show with the Michigan coach since Jim got there, and then for the 2 years with Sharon. And I point blank asked him, I said, listen, animosity happens in sports. We're not idiots. But when coaches start yelling and word gets out, how do you handle that? And he said, when there are voices in a room and there's dissent, that's a good thing. But what we quickly realized was that dissent was more than just that. There was questioning. There was a wonder of responsibility of what was happening at the top. There was a mishandling of the quarterback. There was no quarterback coach for Bryce Underwood, who was the number one recruit coming out, the biggest recruit Michigan's ever gotten at the quarterback position, and he had no quarterback coach in his freshman year. There was a lot that was underneath that program and underneath Sharon that was crumbling, it became very apparent, and it got louder as they approached the Ohio State game. And when they lost that game, guys, it was very loud from a lot of the boosters from the board that the direction they wanted to go in was different than Sharon, and then everything unfolded the way it did.
Brad Galli of the Brad Galli Show. You can find him on YouTube. Follow him on Twitter at Brad Galli, Galli, joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Let's stick with Bryce Underwood, because I think a lot of people, you see a true freshman do some of the things he did last year in live action, you say, kid's got a bright future. We can build on that. There's obviously going to be big steps to be taken when you're that age and you step into that league to start. But then we get some of the negativity coming out of spring ball with kids' dads saying different things about how he looked, and a short window in which you got to see him. I don't know what to make of a lot of it. What are the most realistic things you're hearing about this young man right now as the Michigan quarterback?
I would love to give you a line that turns into a nice infographic you pop out on Instagram. Brad Galli in Michigan says this about Bryce Underwood, and here's the undivided truth, and there's no doubt about it. But I think the truth of it is, there is so much unknown, and it is that time of year where speculation is king. I watched this kid in high school, and he dazzled. And, you watch kids in high school, and you can say he's the next big thing, and we all did say that. We watch him in spring ball his freshman year, and he looks pretty good, and he moves like he's a veteran, and he's in the offense, and he takes command, and he's got the frame, he's got the build. But then you watch some of the simple throws and some of the simple reads that he couldn't make last year, and you question it. And then the next play, he's scrambling for 30, and you go, well, maybe they should run him more. They were conservative last year in not running him a lot. They didn't want to burn his legs in a year where they felt like they weren't going to get into the Big Ten or the national championship. Now, you may question that as a strategy because the Big Ten was a little bit up for grabs outside of what we saw Indiana ultimately do. Like, you could have gotten in and could have done something in the playoff had you just won maybe one or two more games. But I think with him, I think the biggest thing is hitting those simple throws. He throws the ball so hard, and knowing when to use that changeup, knowing to not kind of back off that fastball was a big issue for him last year. So it's ride or die with Bryce Underwood. They're going to live or die with him for this year, and you would think next. But in this world of NIL and transfers, who knows? It's make or break, man. If he has a big year, and we're talking in a few months about how good Bryce Underwood looks, it's probably with Michigan in the top 25, maybe back in the top 10.
And that's the thing. So many of these quarterbacks, Brad, they can't ever find that. They can't ever find that changeup, that ball velocity, ball tempo. It just, certain kids just, they want to fire it in there, and they don't understand when you want to hit that check down, take some off. You just got to float it over there. And if he finds it, I'm with you. I think he could have a big year. Here's another reason I think he can have a big year. I think this wide receiver core has a chance to be much better than people are giving it credit for. It's a younger group that returns a lot of guys that played. You get a couple transfers in that can help. The offensive line should be solidified. Andrew Marsh can flat go. And then defensively, you got Cameron Brandt back on the edge. I love Zeke Berry at corner, a kid that just he plays like he's not like a normal DB. I think you have pieces around him that could help this be a really good football team. And they're not getting probably the credit that they deserve. A lot of that emphasis is on Bryce Underwood. We know it's quarterback. We get it. But what else is in place that leads you to believe that Michigan could surprise some folks this year and maybe contend for a Big Ten title, a spot in the playoff?
Marsh was the guy. I was getting long-winded on my last answer, but Marsh was the guy I was going to bring up. When Bryce looked great last year, it was when he was going to Marsh. And I don't think that was just Bryce. Marsh is a special talent. The Northwestern game when they're playing at Wrigley last year, he had some diving catches, some late sideline toe tappers. The connection the two of them have, I think, is something that Michigan fans would hope that, man, this would remind them of those old quarterback wide receiver duos in the past, and maybe Marsh can be that next guy for Michigan at wide receiver. I think the tight end position is always something to watch with Michigan, but I think Marsh is an all Big Ten player with the potential to be an All-American. Now, we have not seen a Michigan wide receiver take off and be that guy. I mean, in 2 decades, really. I mean, I think of David Terrell back who went to the Bears in the first round. Braylon Edwards right there, obviously. But it's been a while. I mean, that was a calling card for Michigan for quite some time. But if you want to help out your quarterback in 2026 in this era of airing it out, you got to have a guy like that. And I think, again, he's a guy to watch that could be a national name that's popping when you're watching games early in the season. And let's check in on Michigan. And Marsh, how many touchdowns? He's got 4 touchdowns. He's a guy and a name to watch.
Had to bring up David Terrell. He and A-Train burned us in the Citrus Bowl, my final college football game. Thanks for bringing that one up. We really appreciate that here on the show today.
Sorry.
That's okay. I want to ask you a little bit more of a bigger Big Ten question. because yesterday we took a couple conferences and just kind of went through, do we think more teams are going to be better, more teams going to go backwards? I think there's a real chance for more teams to advance this year in the Big Ten from what they were last year than there are more teams to go maybe backwards. Like, it's going to be harder for Ohio State to be better, Oregon to be better, but I think they can be maybe where they were, close to where they were. Indiana obviously is not going to go undefeated again, but they're going to be really good. Do you see the conference maybe taking an extra step and some of the middle or bottom of the Big Ten could sort of be better than people are projecting?
Yeah, I think USC might figure it out a little bit better than they have the last few years and figure out how to finish a season. I think locally, Michigan State with Pat Fitzgerald, I guarantee you they won't be worse than what they have with Jonathan Smith. I talk a lot about Michigan when we're talking football around here because they've been the better program for a while. But I think Pat Fitzgerald was a perfect hire at Michigan State. Literally, like when he played against Michigan State, he had the big neck roll. I mean, he was that guy. And for him to come in and try to preach that, but also understand he's been out of football for a while. He's been building what he said is a machine to understand the NIL, understand the transfer portal as well as anybody can, and come in and attack it there. If he can get those guys that Mark D'Antonio got, I think we're watching, a two-headed monster in our state here in Michigan and seeing Michigan State competing again. I think to your point, yeah, I think more teams take a step in the Big Ten. It was really top-heavy last year, and I think that's an anomaly in this NIL era. And I think administrations know how to throw money now at the program and see it work. Indiana gave that example, and so I think some of those middle-tier programs will take that step, building a weaker non-conference schedule, and you'll start to look at a more balanced Big Ten this year.
Brad Galli joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. So let me ask you this. You know more so than us. Is Michigan State suited to do that? Do they have the backing? Is that not just administrative wanting to do it? Do they have people ready to step up? Can they be a player in that game? Today's NIL, where we are in college sports?
Yeah, Mel Tucker was a misfire, but Matt Ishbia, who owns UWM, the big mortgage company here in Michigan, is the owner of the Phoenix Suns, is a big-time player, was a walk-on for Tom Izzo. He threw a bunch of money to prevent Mel Tucker, as we know, from leaving Michigan State to go to LSU. That blew up in their face. They're being very cautious. I think he's been a little bit more cautious of being out loud about the money he's throwing. But I think a good season out of Pat Fitzgerald, he starts backing them more. But the way Michigan State's always done it and the way Tom Izzo does it on the basketball side of things is with come play for us in East Lansing. Yes, we're known literally for farming. There are farms around Michigan State, but come earn it. And for people that think in this area you can't do that, I think Michigan State has been the outlier in hoops for quite a while. They did it with Mark D'Antonio just as the CFP was beginning. I think they could do it again. You get enough prizes in there and you start building around it. You can get people in there like they did in Indiana. But I think before Matt Ishbia and some of these big Michigan State people want to start throwing their money again, show me a little proof, Pat Fitzgerald. I think they're capable of it, but I think Ishbia and those guys would want to see a little proof.
Do you have one in the Big Ten that you think maybe more so than others could separate outside USC? I think a lot of us look at Jaden Mayava and say, all right, they got talent. They have skill on the perimeter. They could be that team. But is there one that maybe you feel like deserves a little more conversation that could make that leap? Maybe it's Michigan State. Like I love Minnesota this year. I think you got a solid quarterback, throws a nice deep ball, big targets, wide receiver, good group of tight ends. Defensively, maybe not great, but I think they could surprise some folks. I mean, UCLA's got a big-time quarterback now. I don't know if they have enough pieces, but, you put some new things around him. Washington's got a playmaker at quarterback. They could maybe extend a little bit. Like, who's that surprise team for you in this league?
Can I be really lame and go to the top and just think that I think Oregon becomes a wrecking ball this year, like an absolute wrecking ball?
No, it's not lame at all. We were just talking about it. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. They were on that path last year, and I think with what Dan Lanning's built up there, man, he wants it to be a machine. They've shown the capabilities of being a machine, and some of those falters last year, I think when coaches go through that, it looks like it's automatic on the outside, but those are the kind of bruises that turn into battle scars and battle wounds that you learn from. And I think the way he's insulated and built some talent around there and picked up some key transfers, man, I think they become a machine, and that's the team to look for this year in all of college football.
Brad, great stuff, man. Hope the family trip is going well. We appreciate the time. Let's do it again soon.
All right, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, also, checking out your YouTube page. Get your guys to ship us some Cosmic Chrome football down here if we can make that happen.
You like that? You open up some cards. Let's do it, man. Next time we're at the same sideline, we'll crack a box together, and you can keep the SEC guys. I'll keep the Big Ten guys. You like that?
I just need the offensive lineman. It will be good. So there you go.
No David Terrell cards, though.
No, you can have those. Don't need those. All right. Take care, Brad. Good stuff.
See you, man.
All right, Brad Galli joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline at Brad Galli, Galli. Go subscribe to his YouTube page. He does a lot, too. He's got Detroit Tigers, Detroit Lions. He covers Pistons. He's covering a little bit of World Cup, but also Michigan Wolverines, Michigan State. So dialed into college football as well. And just, are we making enough, John, of the home run hire that it was to be able to get Kyle Whittingham at this point? To fire your coach that way, to have it go as poorly as it did. You think about usually this is some random interim to just get us through 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, and you stumble upon Kyle Whittingham, a guy whose mentality and behavior is already exactly what your program has been built on for the last decade. And even though, like Brad said, he comes in, changes a lot of things, does things a different way, you had to get some of the stench off the program that was there,
right,
and do it a little bit more so your way. But this is a proven winner. Like a legitimate proven winner. And you're able to bring him in with a ton of talent at quarterback, talent at receiver, talent at DB, talent up front. I'm very interested to see what he can do with it this year. I don't know what to feel about it, but I feel like we may be undervaluing just what he is as a head coach and how Michigan was able to get him when they did.
The two things we're probably talking about the least that we should be talking about a whole bunch more, the fact that Kyle Whittingham got to Michigan and Georgia. Like two things that just if you just look at it at any other point in time, it's like, oh yeah, Georgia's probably a top 5 team. You can make a good argument that they're number 1. And Kyle Whittingham not only gets to go to Michigan, but after Michigan had such controversy and issues to what's going on in their head coaching position, to all of a sudden just bag a guy like that. Like that's almost unfathomable. Like I harbor no ill will towards Michigan, but that doesn't seem right or fair.
No, it's wild to think about. All right, we'll talk more about that. We have week 1 lines in college football we didn't get to yesterday. We have some recruiting news that we need to update as well. I will ask the guys here. We'll play a game before we head into the weekend a little bit later in the show. Do you know your conferences? Things have changed in the last 48 hours. We'll do that a little bit later in the show. All that and more next right here on Mac and Cube in the morning.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, 3-man front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.